Hi guys, it's John from Metric Works again. Here we have a 2016 CRF 50. It's in pretty good shape. Just going to go through, do a bit of maintenance on it, replace a couple of scuffed panels. I think the handlebars might be a bit tweaked, and thought you guys might be interested in joining along for the ride. So let me get this up on the stand and we'll go from there. And we're back. So the stand is actually a bar stool. I like to use these for working on small bikes. It keeps you from having to bend over. Again, this is in pretty good shape, 2016. So guys, I think a plan for this, we're going to pop off the carburetor and clean it out. It seemed like the last time this was used, the carburetor was overflowing a bit out through the drain hole. The previous owner on this overfilled it with oil. The bike was laid on its side, hence all the oil came out through the air filter. We'll get into that later on. I'll show you what I think happened here. Fun little bike. So guys, I'm going to take the plastics off of this thing, give it a good cleaning. Let's start by removing the two 10mm bolts that are up here. These are special bolts. They're shouldered to allow the shoulder to go into the plastic. This is all one piece, as these side panels are fixed to the bottom of the seat by Phillips screws. I'm going to take the screws off the tank and approach it this way because I want to strip this down and give it a good cleaning. Something I want to point out to you guys: Honda uses a number 2, if this will focus, but yeah, a number 2 Phillips fits just fine in these Honda fasteners. If not, you use something else a bit smaller, you're going to possibly run the risk of stripping it out or marrying up the sides of the fastener. Number 2 is what you're going to want to use. They come out easy. So guys, to get the shrouds off the tank, Honda used these push start style fasteners. What you want to do is take your flat blade screwdriver. In these push start style fasteners, there's always a little indentation. Just put the screwdriver in and kind of give it a little twist. So comes up. As you can see, it will go down in the specific groove that it came out of. It's not a round hole. To get the female end of the fastener up out of it, you can squeeze the bottom and just push up. And there you have it. That's Honda's push starts for holding the radiator shrouds onto the tank. Let me get the other side done, and we should be able to pop that tank, seat, and rear fender off and have a good look. So now that we have the push starts off and the Phillips number 2 screws out of the tank shroud, we should be able just to lift this right up out of the way as one unit and have a good look at the frame, tank, shock. You see the the inserts are into the tank where Honda put the threaded brass piece in for the tank shroud screws. It's a bit dirty, not too bad. Most of my stuff is way worse, but I'm going to give this a nice little bath, clean it up, and like I said, got a young rodder that's ready to go. So guys, I'm going to be honest with you, I loosened these fasteners before we started this video. It's just so hard to do this stuff one-handed, especially recording from a cell phone. If you guys have any suggestions on a better camera I could possibly look into, I'm open, all ears. I seem to be really enjoying making these kind of little how-tos if anybody's watching them, and just would like something better than the plain old iPhone. I went ahead and loosened the back bolt for the tank and the front, as you see up here by the steering stem. These bolts are different and they should go back where they came from. This is just a regular thread bolt, has no shoulder on it because there's a rubber grommet with a washer and a bushing that slips down through it. But the rear of the tank, it's different, as you can see. This is a shoulder bolt, and this is because it squats. There is no metal sleeve in this. It's just a washer and a rubber grommet in the tank, and this is used to squat down the tank, and the shoulder bottoms out on the frame so you don't over tighten it. With regards to the fuel line, make sure your fuel is off. As you see, I already have this disconnected. I'm going to show you one of my favorite tools that I use. It's just a pair of right angle needle nose pliers. This allowed me to get into this tight space, squeeze that clamp, pull it back, and then rotate the pliers around, grab onto the hose, gently squeeze it, rotate it so it breaks its hold from the spigot on the gas tank. If you guys are going to be doing much of this mechanic work on bikes and ATVs, it might be something that you can look into. Here in Canada, these are only just a cheap set from Canadian Tire. They are guaranteed forever, but you know, well worth to have it in your toolbox if you're trying to do these things. So this tank should come right off. Here we go. So as you can see, it's pretty much down to the bare frame. These frames haven't changed in a long time. I've been collecting Honda 50s for, I'd say, close to 25 years. Most of mine are ZAD 50s and CT 70s. A lot of them are in restoration. It's in the process of being restored. The difference between this frame and the 82, 83 frames, that style, the frame, the gooseneck, the main tube is the same. It comes down. This is all the same. The difference is here. This has a mono shock in the rear. It has a different type carrier to carry that mono shock for the rear end, the swing arm. So the swing arm is obviously different. On the mid 80s, I think up to 99 or 2000, when they became the CRFs and they moved on from the XR or ZAD 50s is what they were back then. Those had two mono shocks coming down on either side, so that the swing arm was different. They're pretty much all the same bike. I've seen many documentaries on the CRF or the Honda horizontal 49cc motor. It's the most produced motor in the world. It's so reliable, durable. Even the aftermarket companies, the copy companies, They have been producing them for years now. I don't know the whole story, but I was told that the patents ran out, and the patents for the engine and the tooling to make this engine ran out. So the aftermarket quickly jumped on board and started mass producing these. So this 2016 motor shares a lot of similarities to, say, the 83 that I was riding the weekend. Some of the major differences, they changed the bore and the stroke in the late 80s. This is obviously has a electronic ignition with a stator pickup coil, solid state ignition, where the older Z50s have a points condenser style. This has a CDI box, but very, very similar. You can interchange parts with these. One difference that I'm going to point out, and I think that this is part of the issue with the oil that is shown here on top of the motor, that the dirt and sand is collected in. This bike is meant to have it's meant to conform to emissions, we'll say. The emissions on this, there's a crankcase breather tube in here. That's this guy. So that goes to the top of your motor. So when the oil and everything is going on inside this motor, it produces off-gassing. All the off-gases that goes up into this catch canister, and then it's fed back down through into the air filter to be reburned. So the problem lies when if a bike is laid on its side for any amount of time, the oil runs to the top of the motor, fills up this tube, then goes into your air filter, and then leaks out of your air filter. There is a drain that comes from your air filter that comes down, and I've previously removed, there was a plug put in by the previous owner. I'm not sure why, but this whole tube was filled with oil. You can see the owners put on some cheap Honda. No, they're definitely not Honda. They're just red. Some zip ties to keep this drain tube for the carburetor attached to the drain tube for the air filter. So what complicates this, or compounds it, we'll say, is when the owner of a bike checks the oil. So on these little small Hondas, the dipstick is on the right side, right by the Kickstarter. So the proper way to check the oil is have the bike standing up straight. You unscrew the dipstick, take it off, you wipe it off, and you lay it into the hole to check your oil level. Any other way will get you an incorrect reading. A lot of people overfill their oil, and that compounds the problem of having too much oil in the engine, and where it comes out the crankcase breather. And I am confident that this is what happened here. So the correct way: unscrew it, clean it off, lay it back in the hole, get a good reading. The oil has to be between the two markings here on the hashtag, or sort of the hash marks, to be within the acceptable limit. Anything over that, it's just way too much oil, and it's going to produce a lot more pressure than this engine was designed for. So we're actually going to change the oil on this guy. I'm going to clean it off first and give it a good once over, and then that's probably the last thing I'm going to do. I want to take apart the air cleaner because I suspect that is full of oil also, and I'm going to take the carburetor off and drop the bowl. There might be some old gas, a bit of water in the gas where this probably laid up for a couple years. Or who knows, it might even be a bit of dirt. But yeah, that's the plan. Okay guys, we're back to the motor. I already loosened the fasteners that we're going to take off here as prior. So we talked about the crankcase breather going up into kind of like an oil catch can for emissions. It roots itself back down and goes into the air filter. So what I did here was I loosened this bolt so the oil catch can is free. Disconnect the hose coming from the top of the motor that goes to the oil catch can. There's this wire holder that you can just bend out of the way. It's meant to be bent. That will allow you to move your wiring. The bolt up top that holds your air filter on, you can see it there. You got to remember, if you take this off, even to clean your air filter during regular maintenance, that there is a ground strap that needs to go back on here. I should put you in the back in the focus frame. So what I was saying, this bolt came out of right here. This is a ground strap, goes into the air filter housing, holds it to the frame. There is a Phillips screw down here. I loosen that to allow the clamp to become loose on the back side of the carburetor. Let's see how easy that comes off. Kind of root it around the wires here, and it's out of the way. I'm just going to pull off the, maybe I should get the pliers to undo the clip there. We'll undo this clip, and that will pull out of there, pull out of the optional zip tie that was installed. Lay this on the floor. Now we get a good look at the top of the motor. As you can see, with any rotting, this is an area where it gets quite dirty. I'm just going to give this a good clean up. You know, there's just sand and dust built up. I'm going to remove the carburetor and just give it a quick once over. The slider needs to come out of the carburetor, the throttle slide. So this just unscrews. The slider comes up out of the carburetor, just like that. In my previous videos, I've talked about adjusting the idle and putting the slide in the proper way. So on this carburetor, I don't know if you can see it. See that little pin in there? Well, that's a locating pin. That locating pin goes in this slide. On the other side of this slide, there is a cutout that has a ramp in it. So this ramp is actually your idle. If you see this screw right here, I don't know if we can see the other end of it. Let me readjust and well, you're just going to have to trust me. This screw goes in and it has a cone on the end of it, a cone bevel. This bevel rides in this ramp. The more you screw this in, the higher it's going to push against that ramp and draw the needle up, so thus increasing your idle. Pretty simple. It's been this way for a long time. You know, it's carburetors haven't really changed that much, especially on trail bikes, 4-stroke engines. Most of them have the have this setup. I'm gonna go ahead and pull this drain hose down here with the get a set of pliers to get that clip off, and going to get a socket to remove these two bolts so I can take the carb completely off and drop the bowl, drain it out, have a look inside. And again, with my other videos, I explained how the choke works. It's basically a lever that turns a butterfly valve that chokes off the air, which enriches the fuel circuit. So if you can see, when the choke is on, this butterfly valve in here is closed. You turn the choke off, or lessen the choke, turn it down. You can see that the butterfly valve kind of lays flat straight across, so it's not providing any restriction to the airflow. Anyways, let me go grab a screwdriver and a socket to fit this guy, and maybe a set of pliers, and we'll go from there. So talk about the air filter housing and the air filter inside. I did wipe the outside of this off before I started shooting this video. I did take the screws out. I have not opened it yet. We're going to do this together. But before I do, I wanted to show you something. Just look at the dirt that is down there. That is years, or maybe not years, but there's quite a significant amount of dirt in the intake of this air filter housing. I'm expecting the air filter in this guy, he's going to need servicing, and we can do that. Clean it out with Versol, let it air dry, blow it out with the compressor, and then use the Ziploc bag with the foam filter oil in it, like we did with the CRF 100 a couple weeks ago. So as you can see, there's been oil built up inside of this air filter housing. Fair amount of oil built up. This all comes from the previous owner overfilling it with oil. You can see, just look at this. So the air filter is doing its job. It just needs to be maintained better. But that's why we're here. Just look at the oil on this. Yeah, look. So this bike was suffering from too much oil in the air filter. It wasn't getting the correct mixture. So you can see this oil catch canister comes out here into the bottom of the air filter housing. So there is a nice screen there to keep any big pieces of material from going in through your carburetor. The foam is there to catch the fine particulates. Big words. And this is actually a baffle that goes in, and it has a rubber seal on both sides. And then you have the end of the air filter housing. I mentioned earlier that the intake tube is rather dirty, but the inside of this is, I guess, had so much oil in it, it doesn't show the dried, caked on dust. I'm going to shoot all this with parts cleaner and wash it out in the parts washer. Give this air filter a good bath, and we'll see where we go from there. Alright guys, just bringing you back here. I figured you guys didn't want to see me clean another air filter and oil it. I've already got a video done on that. You know how I do it. I just wanted to show you a couple things. So, this air filter housing, this tab always goes up towards the frame, as for reference. And then Honda's also provided a little indentation in the housing, so in the metal housing and the plastic housing that it goes over. So that's your alignment pin. This is done because of this pickup tube needs to be placed back in through this part of the frame here. If the air filter housing is put together any other way, then this is not going to work right.